I know some people think I make videos only to be negative about the game. It is just not true. The game has serious issues and many players already know this. I want the game to be good because I want to play it. I want to make videos to help players with tough PvE sections or offer counters to the PvP meta builds. I want to just make the game better. However, as it stands, the game is just in a state that does not make it fun for me to do so. I'm not getting anything for doing this. I'm just playing a game I want to like. This means that I try to point out why things work poorly and why systems are broken. The game can and should be better. And if they are trying, they need to try a whole lot harder. If you agree with that, please consider subscribing and hitting the like button. Comment down below with what you think about the game and what you want to see more from the devs. With that said, let's roll into it. Now, I have a few main issues with the game. My biggest as of now are the lack of meaningful content expansions, the severe lack of real boss fights that make build diversity actually interesting, and the lack of anything interesting in the DZ and PvP in general to include rewards. Finally, what this video is about, the completely awful allotment, allocation, pie chart, density, whatever the hell you want to call it, system. Is targeted loot good? Yes, it is a very nice thing to include, but it does not fix a broken system. Of course you're not getting the rolls and talent combos you want because the system just does not work that way. Being able to find more gear that will only get specific rolls and nothing else is not going to help us much. We are still getting the same gear we have been for months now. This might help players who just bought the game. It will do nothing for most day one players. If you do not already understand, basically, each piece of gear only has so many points to it. Let's just say a fictional 100 points on a mask. The base armor roll eats 50 of those points. The remaining points are divided among the mod slot, talent slots, and attributes. So if you have 3 attributes, those 50 are divided among the 3 stats, meaning if a max roll takes 45% of the remaining points, you are only going to have 5 left for your other stats, which is why you see a lot of 1% rolls or 50 skill power rolls in some gear. With recalibration, you can also add another mostly god roll stat to your item, but that still leaves you with a bad roll. When talents and slots get added, they take a lot less points compared to stats. I have seen a holster with 45% skill haste, and another with 42%, plus a talent or mod slot. For 3% skill haste, I can gain a lot more power. This is because the system they use is just not very good. Plus, recalibrating talents does not add more power to a piece of gear, it only changes the roll. So if you want a truly max piece of gear, you need to have the stars align and get perfect talents on the perfect piece with one perfectly rolled stat. This is why brands like Alps and Gila are so popular, because they come with mod slots, talents, and a lower number of attribute rolls. This makes them better because they have less wasted points. And because mods like plus 5,000 armor and 5% armor cost less total points than a native 5% armor stat roll, it means you're basically just beating the system. Just like how a utility mod can add 500 skill power to a skill for something like 5 points, but a 500 skill power roll might cost 35 points on a holster. It is all about numbers, and the numbers just hate most of the gear in this game. The more mods and talents a piece has, the more you are getting from your actual gear. End of story. As you can see here, these 2 pieces of gear are pretty close from a roll perspective. Both of them have similar gear score, both of them have a similar armor roll, and they both have a very strong main stat in the armor percentage. But when you look initially, you see that one has a bonus attribute, which you might think makes it better. Wrong. While the Badger may have an extra useless stat, the Gila gains a utility mod slot and 2 talents. Even with the upcoming changes, if you did mod the Badger with a new blue roll just like the Gila, the 2 talents and a mod slot completely overshadow the useless stat roll. The values given by the allocation system are just poor at best, meaning that the Badger Tough is not given any real compensation for the loss of those slots. The skill rolls won't compare to most utility mods. Plus, the set bonuses do nothing to compensate for the loss either. There is not much that can be done to fix the system besides a complete overhaul of it. In its current form, the potential gain from changes to recalibration and newly added brand pieces is only going to be a small help, with pieces like Gila, Alps, and Fenris remaining statistically dominant over pieces like Badger, Sokolov, or Petrov. Actually, with the large buffs coming to many talents, it makes gear without talents almost worthless. Badger gear has 0 talents on the backpack. Does that sound like an option you are ever going to choose now? As I see it, the game continues to push the importance of talents over actual gear stats. Almost every weapon talent murders the weapon damage stat numbers we are seeing on gear. Stats are mostly just there to unlock talents now, and this is making the game feel so gimmicky. Builds are not even being labeled by skills or purpose anymore. They're just being called numbers, 311.7 or 757 or whatever. This brings me to why I really miss the original Division 1 system. Sure, it needed a little work, but it was simple and could be changed easily because the talents were not linked directly to your stat count. It worked because it made it obvious what the most important roles in your build were. You had your 3 main stats: firearms, stamina, and electronics. Then you had your major roles like armor, skill haste, weapon damage, and your minor roles, which included mod slots, ammo, and various resistances. Plus, the original system even had bonuses to specific skills, which made farming for more optimal pieces a little bit grindy, but not completely necessary. Plus, the recalibration system did not depend on you saving many extra just-in-case pieces. It was like a slot machine, and you could pick one of 3 new options. It did not have a roll cap besides that of the stat itself, and you could just roll over and over until you got what you wanted for only a relatively small cost. In many ways, it is a very similar recalibration system, but something about how specific stats actually mattered so much more for your build over now just made the old system feel better to me. In my opinion, if they would have just tweaked the original system, and not the 1.8 overly simplified system, I'm talking about the actual original launch system, this game would have been much better in terms of loot. They could still make a much better variety of talents. They could still implement the brand system with the brand bonuses, and they could still have a system that worked and did not annoy the player base as much as it currently does. This system worked pretty well for more than 3 years, and they understood it. It just made sense and offered a lot of diversity without mandating players needed this many slots of this color. Alright guys, that does it for me. Let's see if they address any of this in the state of the game tomorrow or possibly in the 3rd phase of the PTS, but I would not hold my breath. As always, hit the like button if you enjoyed the video, and I will see you in the next one.